And we're live, Tom, not the smartest guys in the room. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
Good. I see you out training for a new Ironman and videoing it. When you trained for your last Ironman, was that the one you fell, or have you done an Ironman in between?
No, I did one in between. In between. The last one was Maryland. Again, this one. If you're watching, I'm wearing a shirt from the first Maryland that I did in 2021, and then in 2022 when I fell, that was Ironman Mont Tremblant up in Quebec in Canada, which is no longer. They don't do that race anymore. That was the year after mine was the last year they did it, and there was a whole bunch of issues because of the wildfires. If you remember, in the summer of 2023 up in Canada, in Eastern Canada. So yeah, there were a whole bunch of issues with that. So they and then they stopped doing that race. So that Ironman is no longer exists. So this year I'm doing, or last year I did Ironman Maryland, and then this year I'm doing Ironman Maryland again. I like the race. It's a good race. They just opened it up to pros. Last year was the first year with the pro field. I don't know if you remember, I posted a little video that Becky took of me running as I was getting passed by the woman that won the race on the female pro side. So she ran past me, and obviously because she's a pro triathlete and I'm just a schlub in my mid 40s. But anyway, it was just cool to share the course with some of those folks and actually see them on the run. Was pretty fun. So yeah, I'm trying to do Ironman Maryland again and trying to get my time down as close to, if not just under 10 hours, if possible. Like that's the big goal. That's the dream goal, would be to be in the 9s, in the single digits for an Ironman. That would be an incredible goal to achieve, and one that not a lot of people who ever do an Ironman actually do. But I'm proud of my race last year. I finished 15th in my age group. So pretty proud of that. It's a very competitive age group, and going for it again, and decided to take people along on the journey. You know, I talk about storytelling all the time. I tell people to, document their lives, document what they're doing, share who they are and their values. And I got to put my money where my mouth is, right? I gotta walk my talk, as a friend of ours, Heidi, says. And so, I'm walking my talk and putting this vlog out every day.
Well, make sure when you're riding your bike that you have your camera hooked up so that you're not taking both hands off and trip over something. And Tom, when you're running, have you ever tripped over? I know you left my house when you stayed here. You ran through the college, I think. Have you ever tripped over a manhole cover or one of those grates on the street?
I don't think I have. I'm gonna just, knock on some wood as I say that. Like, and my desk, for the record, my desk is actually an old desk that I inherited from my dad's former law partner. So it's made of real wood. And I'm gonna go ahead and knock on my desk, which is made of real wood. But yeah, I don't think I've ever tripped over something like that while running. I've never really had a bad fall running. And the only really bad fall, I've gone down a couple of times on my bike, but the only really bad fall was the one where I broke my collarbone. And, I don't do things halfway, right? Like, so it was a spectacular fail. My collarbone was in, as it was in 4 pieces and took 7 screws and a piece of titanium to put back together. So, I don't mess around, but yeah, I've had a bunch of falls on my bike and a couple running, but never anything serious. Although I do have a couple of friends, actually. One of Becky's friends is in the hospital in Italy right now after having broken her foot, walking around, and it looks like she's going to have surgery. And another friend of ours broke her foot stepping in a pothole, broke her ankle stepping in a pothole. So you never know.
True. That's true. I asked you that because one day running through that college, I used to run in the morning and I carried a baseball bat sometimes to keep animals away or anything weird. And sorry. And I was running through the college and I hit the grates, not a manhole, but the grates. And I don't even think it could have been sticking up like an inch. And I fell, slid, busted up my hand. And I think when I was holding the bat fell down on my hands. Yes, it was not good. Okay. Not the smartest guys in the room. We got Julie and Jim, our LinkedIn friends. Hey, say hi, send a message. Tom might answer a question. We're going to talk storytelling and structure today. Does it matter? Tom, I see you do. Like you started doing your video, your daily vlog. One, you're popping off the screen. So I'm wondering if you're using a different camera or something. It was, you really looked clear. You really looked clear in the thing. It was popping. The colors were good. But tell me, let's talk structure. If I do a minute video, does there need to be structure? I watch some videos. We'll go video first here. I watch some videos and they're 6 minutes. Some videos are 3. I struggle. I want, like me, I got a minute, man. I'm like minute, 2 minutes. Okay. I know minute, 2 minutes, I'm in. A 6-minute video, if I don't know how long your video are usually, and then I'll look like I'm listening to video. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then I'll stop it and look and see like the timeline. And I'm like, shit, this is 6 minutes. I only got 2 minutes. Okay, I'm out. So does it matter in video? Like matter in short form video? Does it always matter?
Yeah, I mean, structure is super important, right? And I think one of the things you want to do with structure is you want to give the audience, you want to set expectations for the audience, right? That's what's one of the things that's most valuable about creating a structure. And actually, to this point, right? I mean, this is a video and audio show that we do every week. This live stream, not the smartest guys in the room, right? Hoping some of the brilliant people who are watching on LinkedIn right now will jump in and ask some questions and add to the discussion here with us. But one of the things that's super important is setting those expectations for your audience. And so, like, I just start every vlog video that I do the same way. Like, formatting wise, they're relatively similar. They're almost always outside, right? They're most of them are me kind of walking down the street and talking, right? They're simple walk and talks. I try to keep them 60 seconds or less. Sometimes they go to about 90 seconds, depending, but 90 seconds is sort of like the max that I'll do for those. And then the other thing is I start everyone the same way, right? Ironman training. I've been saying for the first couple, I've been saying 2024, just so people are clear that they're not like in an old video series or something. So it's just Ironman training 2024 day, whatever. Today will be day 3, right? So it's very straightforward. It's very simple. And so immediately in the first couple of seconds, you know exactly what you're watching, right? You know that you're watching like a video where I'm recapping or talking about my training. It's in that first sentence. So right away, I'm letting you know what's happening. And then I talk a little bit about my training, my experience, what's working, what's not working, what's positive, what's negative, what I'm struggling with, what I'm finding, joy in, whatever the case may be that day. So that's what my expectations are, what my goals are, all those kinds of things. So I talk about a bunch of different stuff, but very quickly in the video, I set expectations for the audience. And that's one of the things that formatting can really do. And we've created a format for this, right? So, we're going to try to follow that format, what I call, using some of my old industry terms from TV, a show clock. But we're going to try to follow it this week and see how we can do. But that's what, that's the value in using structure to tell your stories and communicate with folks. And you're familiar with this from publishing, right? I mean, like, a book without structure, you might as well just, you might as well just leave it as a file on your computer, right?
Yeah. And I this is every day, especially, and I'm in nonfiction primarily. So the genre of business books, and you wrote a business book. Your business book, each chapter can pretty much stand alone. It is part of a bigger whole. You could teach a course on each chapter. You could talk about each chapter, but they're part of a bigger mission. So that is what's expected. In each chapter, there might be an intro, there might be a takeaway, there might be lessons, there might be keys, principles, takeaways. All those things are expected. So when you read those kind of books on an airplane, I'm at the mall reading your book. I'm in the car waiting for my kid. I know I can pick up your book. I can go to chapter 13, back to front. I might not remember where I was the last time. I can pick it up. I can read and get something of value in a short period of time. I don't have to read on all 500 pages because I'm not at cabin for the weekend. I could read it at a cabin for the weekend, but typically those kind of books are read in short segments, little bit at a time. So they have to stand alone a little bit at a time. To your point, if there's no structure, all goes mad. So let's dig in on this structure topic. Let's see who we got. If we got any questions on LinkedIn, and we're going to try to give you more structure, as Tom said. We appreciate each of you showing up here and there, but we have probably failed you over the time. You know, sometimes in the pandemic, we'd have a 2 hour and 30-minute room, and people were probably wondering what the hell's going on here. And another day it'd be an hour and 20, and somebody would pop in and be like, why aren't these guys here? Last week they were here 2 hours and 40 minutes. Or they jumped in at 11 and we were still here and going strong. And then another day we weren't there. That is not good for consistency. That's not good for people coming to see us, because some weeks we let them down. If they came and we weren't there, we let them down. So let's dig in on this, Tom. Not the smartest guys in the room. We got our friend Julie Loken, Joe Lonta, Jason. So Julie, structure, does it matter to you when you're helping people with their stories? Do you do sometimes you pick them up and you're like, whoa, easy here? Or when you're podcasting, I see your podcast is number one and flying up the charts now. Is there structure on a podcast, Julie? Do tell.
Without structure, you're just a mishmash of words, right? And nobody will be able to follow the story. So that seems like a pretty easy question. It's easier to say you need structure, and it's more challenging to actually create structure to your story. But I always think with storytelling, there needs to be a layer of vulnerability to connect with people. So weaving that into the structure of the beginning, the middle, and the end is super important. And understand your hero's journey. What have you done when you came back from the woods, so to speak, that can change other people's lives? And to be very clear, transparent in your story and journey so other people will connect. Because without a story, you're just talking off the top of your head and you're just promoting yourself, if you will. So there needs to be that layer of vulnerability in that structure. And guys, invite your friends here to this room on Clubhouse. Come on, guys. I can't do this alone. I need your help.
All right, Julie, you're the best. We appreciate the invite. And that's interesting in adding vulnerability to the structure, saying, hey, this is a key component. I want to see this all the way through. So in each segment, or however you'd break it down, act or whatever. So Julie, if you're helping somebody with a podcast, is there a basic structure you lay out? Like, is it, if it's an hour show, it should be open, close, this. If it's a half hour, this, or does it matter?
You know, I think that is a slippery slope because we often just go and try to follow what our guest is talking about, try to rein them in at times because sometimes, you know, you have a guest on a podcast and they're maybe not as seasoned as other people are. So it's up to us as a guest, as the host, to help them curate and execute their story so it makes sense to our audience, always putting my audience first. Some people can just go off a rail talking about stuff. You know, when my eyes start to glaze over, which is a really bad thing, if you start to see my eyes glaze over, you're going to know that I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's when I have to wake up for a second and go, hey, guess what? Hey, Dimple, what's going on, girl? That's when you have to wake up as a host and rein them in and follow something that makes sense to your audience. If you don't do that, you're not a very good host. Guys, I'm sitting here. Only one person has shared since I last begged you to share, and I'm not begging. Just you guys need to bring people into this room because it is so important that we have a really vibrant conversation. Love you guys. Let's see those little share numbers go up. Oh, look at that. All you have to do is ask, and people do.
You convinced me as well, Julie. Go on, Tom.
Yeah,
Well, you convince the host. Just kidding.
Appreciate that, Julie. Appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, and I think too, to your last point there in terms of sharing, please do share here on Clubhouse, but please also, check us out on LinkedIn as well. Tell your friends to join up over there. We're trying to grow our community on LinkedIn also. So please make sure that you share over there and join us and watch over there. You can actually, if you care to see my and Dom's smiling faces on here, you can actually see the Clubhouse room too. So feel free to join us on both. If you want to be active in the conversation, join us on Clubhouse. If you want to listen in and participate, maybe if you're someplace where you can't come up on stage, you can't talk, LinkedIn is a great place to listen in and to participate via comment and question there. So please make sure you do that. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, Julie's got some great points there, Dom, in terms of storytelling and structure. You definitely have to provide those things for your audience, whether it's through the written word, right, in a book, or through hosting a podcast, right? That's part of the job of a host, is to provide that structure for the audience. And that does mean, as Julie rightly pointed out, that does mean guiding your guest. So when you host a podcast, be prepared, right? Be prepared to guide your guests through the experience. Don't leave them hanging out to dry, and don't leave your audience wondering whether or not they're listening to the same podcast that they tuned into last week, right? If you're the host, you have to guide, right? So make sure you do that. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think, Dom?
All right.
Oh,
so
and check them on LinkedIn because they may not be the smartest guys, but they're pretty good looking dudes.
Hey,
as I'm watching Dom.
you and my mom have now said that, Julie. So thank you very much.
All
So
right. I love that.
I appreciate it. My wife once, and then I tricked her into marrying me. All right, Tom, not the smartest guys in the room. We got Joe Lonta in the house. So she says when we said about structure, she was laughing. So go on, Jolanta. Pleased to have you here. What do you think? Is structure something in your production of things? Is it important? Are you struggling with it? How do you deal with it? I see you. I see you. I don't hear you. That is interesting. And she got a new profile.
Yeah, we see. Tom. I see her mic is unmuted also, but I don't hear you, Jolanta. You want to maybe try that again?
You might have to exit the room and come back because the app has been glitching like that. Sometimes some people's audio has not been catching. So you might have to exit the whole app, shut it down, then restart it, and then come back in. It's happened lately.
Well, that's frustrating.
That be that. Okay. Hey, Tom. So I wanted to tell you, when we do our show Bikes and Hikes, when we go into structure, every show starts with you are in the middle of the show. Like you see at some event. So me and my buddy go out bike and hike all around Westmoreland County or the Western PA and surrounding places. And we explore on and off. So we explore on and off the trails. That's what the show's about. You will see us exploring on and off the trails. We say that in the intro, but it starts, there's about a minute of us out exploring, whatever that is. You might start to see something. There's a hook, Netflix style, the extra act that Netflix adds at the beginning to hook you into every Netflix show you will see. Pretty much they hook you in the first couple minutes and then they go back and dive into the story. There is a hook. Then we introduce where we will be going that day. We go back out. We stand in front of a park. We stand in front of a giant fence, a hill, whatever. We tell you, this is what we're going to explore today. We're going to go into a cave. We're going to climb something. We're going to go to this island. And then we hit those spots on our journey. Now is fun and games, hitting the spots on the way to wherever we're going. Every episode is done the same. Okay. Now that could be different. The spots could be different, the journey to those, but we're going to the spots. And then at the end, unless we fell miserably, which sometimes we do, we make it to said goal of, finding a waterfall, jumping in a river, jumping in an icy river or something like that. We may not. There are times where we get lost in the woods, we lose track of our trail, and we don't make it. And then we give up, we fall down or something like that. But the structure is always the same. We dive in, we tell you where we're going, fun and games. If you've ever read the book Save the Cat, I would suggest reading Save the Cat. It's one of the greatest for screenplays, story structure. Read that book. So Tom, back to you, and then we'll go to Jolanta.
So I would say, Dom, to that, what you're describing there, you're talking about that intro piece on Bikes and Hikes, right? That's in the industry, that's what we would call a pre-title tease or a cold open, right? So it's the same for every episode, and it gives sort of, it's a bit of a microcosm of what you guys do, right? It's sort of like if you took a full episode and condensed it down into like 60 seconds, right? That's what that cold open is. And the idea behind it, and the reason why often it's used for shows, or that title sequence is used, is that it gives you a sense of what to expect for the rest of the show, right? It gives you a little bit of flavor of what's going to come. And so it makes you, if that's something you're interested in, makes you want to stick around for the rest of the show. But yeah, it's generally called a cold open or a pre-title tease is usually what we call those in the biz. If I'm going to be a jerk and use a ridiculous, like sort of almost 80s pseudo snobby way to say that, in the biz, we call it a pre-title tease or a cold open.
Well, Tom, I've heard that term cold open. I've never used it, so it is good to know. I hear on Saturday Night Live sometimes they were like, oh, they cold open today or whatever. And I'm like, oh, whatever the hell that meant. So now that you have made me seem a little bit smarter, and now my structure of that show makes a little more sense. Okay, go on, Tom. Where are we at next?
I think we're going to give Jolanta a chance to weigh in. Let's see if the app is playing nice with her here on Clubhouse, and if it's going to let her speak. Jolanta, give it a go. What are your thoughts? Storytelling, structure.
Hey guys, good morning. Does that work? Hello.
We got you loud and clear.
Perfect. Well, first things, Jason, I figured the app would catch up to me at some point with everybody glitching yesterday in certain rooms. So, yay. Thanks, Clubhouse, as always. Well, I wanted to agree with what Julie was talking about as far as structure and organization goes, because when you have guests that come on your show, I've really learned this. You want to have like questions pre-hand. I don't know if you guys do this with your guests, but especially if I've had a celebrity guest that came on and they wanted to see, well, hey, I want to know what type of topic you're talking about on your podcast. Can you send me some questions, and can you let me know what your script looks like? Or, well, I call it a script, but I like to have structure. In the early portion of the show, I might have a few drafts. It's just like writing a speech for me. So I'll have a couple of drafts before I even have something finalized. And if the guest wanted to add in something to it, I would definitely include their input, because you could speak off the cuff with the guest, or you could riff off whatever you're talking about. But I like to make sure that I'll say, hey, is this okay? Do you approve with this? Would your agent go over that? So it's not often I have guest celebrity speakers, but from time to time I would. And that's kind of how, like, media training. I don't know if you guys go through that, but that's kind of how I see it as when it comes to structure. I like to have the opening, the middle, and then the conclusion of how to get your followers to follow you, or what's your biggest closing question of the day? Like what do you want them to do at the end? Do you have a call to action? So I'll throw it back over to you guys. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Jolanta. Glad we were able to get that working so we could hear from you. And thanks for sharing your thoughts on how you use structure in your work and in podcasting to help your guests create better relationships with the audience. Love that. Let's go to Jason next. Jason, what do you think? What are your thoughts on structure and storytelling specifically, and how do you use structure in your content or in your rooms here on Clubhouse?
There's a couple things. You know, structure is, just imagine it's your house, and how people want to come in and enjoy your house, your discussion, your talk. You know, nothing gets done. Your home is not valuable until you enjoy it first, right? So your walls, your structure, what is your topic, your question that gets people interested in what interests them. So, for me, I'm formulating my structure right now as I'm working on a lot of things, but the passion interest right now is to create Jason Barajas experience, or Jason Barajas, in the podcast that I'm working on. So, laying that foundation and then having people who can help you get to the destination you really want to be in, and not what you not want to be in. Because, and I said this in another room, nobody cares about what you don't care about, but they're interested in what you do care about that interests them, where they either can serve you or where they benefit. So trust people to serve themselves what they're interested in. When you show an interest, when I come in, not the smartest guys, I come in with a very just open mind. First, allow me to clear my state of being. What can I learn? And sometimes I'm not learning anything. Sometimes I'm just here for the ride. There's times where I don't want to talk. There's times where I want to. So when I create the structure of my attendance, whether it be my room or the room I come in here, where is the flow? What are they talking about? Can I assist them to get there? And when I exit, what were my takeaways? So that could be a structure. So it's like who you relate to comes back to, that serves. And as long as you stay within those parameters, then you're good. But if you're just trying just to get attention, you're kind of like a dead end. Like I don't really care about what I don't care about. But, and when you offer people suggestions, there are always options. I hear a lot of people discount that. So structure can give you guidelines of who and what you can work with versus you're just casting your bait out there everywhere and it lands nowhere, and you catch no fish or you bring in nothing. So look about, what do you really want to gain and how does it serve you? So structure, my rooms, if you want to come in, sometimes I offer broad topics. And I want to point out something. Sometimes people help you get back to your structure. Like the other day, I had an open room and I was rambling and I was on a roll. My neurodiverse mind was rolling so much. And my good friend Julie stopped me. She did, because, and we were just talking about this on a phone call yesterday. And she's like, "Hey, Jay, I hope you weren't offended by this." And I'm like, "No, you helped me reactivate where I need to be. You help me, because sometimes we get lost in our own explanation." Like I was in another room where a guy was like giving an explanative when he needed to ask me a question. And I asked, "What's your question?" He goes, and he couldn't think about his question. So then I said, "Okay, well, let's frame it back. Where was the beginning thought?" And then he asked his question. He's like, "Well, you went and explained." I'm all, "You asked me a question. You gave me the structure. I gave you the fill-in. So you offered the house. I brought something to the table. Either you like my appetizer or hors d'oeuvre or whatever dish that I'm serving, or you don't." So I'm going to close with that. I don't want to talk too long, but some people help you get back to the framework you need to be in. And, there's people who are colleagues and friends that will help you do that if they're honest. If they're worried about offending you, don't need them. I don't need to worry about who I'm going to be offended by. Sorry, I just don't work that way. But when you have someone say like Julie, I'm going to give her flowers in the public. Why? Because what she does has served me, and why not pay her? Just like Dominick and LinkedIn connected me to a few people. These people that I am potentially interviewing, this is a structure. He benefits, I benefit, and it will be interesting of what we create. So when you work with structure, it's the framework, but you still got to fill in the house. You still got to, what's it going to be in when I walk in? Or is it going to just be a house with no windows, a bunch of breeze and cold, and no one want to be in there. And that's where I stop.
Hey, Jason. Oh, sorry, Dominic.
No, go on,
Can I
Jolanta.
share into
Yeah,
Jason real
yeah.
quick? I just want to say I really appreciate when you would walk into my panel discussions when I had the podcast room, and Julie would come in as well, because you guys would always add. I really appreciate the value you all always gave, and I don't mind if you talk long. Who cares? I mean, it's Clubhouse. People talk on forever sometimes in this app. So I just wanted to tell you thank you for all of your tips and advice you've often given. And you're right. I think sometimes we just need to recalibrate our thoughts, and because we're so excited to start something new, right? But we just forget off track what we're talking about, and that's human. That's
Right.
what we do.
I
No,
agree.
but-
Don't put yourself in a quandary you don't deserve to be in. People can
Right.
help you get out of that.
All right, you guys are both making me get back to my framework, which I appreciate. Brian Swift will come in here sometimes, and he'll like sometimes me and Tom will be laughing about something or off, and Swift comes in and he'll be like, "All right, guys, can you answer the question that's at hand," or something like that, and we'll be like, "Wow, we need to get back." But as top of the hour, we are going to reset. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking structure today, structure in books, structure in video, structure in your life, like Jason said, but structure in your production. So not the smartest guys in the room. We're on LinkedIn. We're also on Clubhouse. We're going to try to get both communities involved. And when it comes to involvement, I think me and Tom, I'm going to speak for Tom. We appreciate each of you for checking us out over the years. If today's the first time you checked us out, thank you for coming in, for adding to the topics. If it would be me and Tom meandering about our bike rides and our falls and things like that for 2 hours or arguing about our thoughts on things if it wasn't for each of you. So we appreciate you, and it doesn't happen we don't have a room. We don't have a community without you deciding to take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, those 2 hour and 40-minute rooms back in the day. Tom, what do you got? Am I right on here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think we've been live streaming this for, God, I think it's going on like 2 years now. We've been doing this live stream thing. It's definitely been over a year. We've been doing this live stream thing around the internet, live streaming it on Facebook and LinkedIn and all of that stuff, trying to take this Clubhouse room and kind of broaden the community. And we're making a concerted effort now, which is like better late than never, right? But trying to add structure and make a concerted effort to help grow this community, specifically on LinkedIn, because I think for Dom and I both, we see a lot of value for our communities on LinkedIn, for the people that we're connected to on LinkedIn, to not just listen to this show, right? Not just listen to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, but to actively participate and be a part of the community there. So if you're listening on LinkedIn, if you're watching on LinkedIn, please feel free to jump in the comments. Feel free to share your thoughts, ask a question. We're happy to answer them. And for the sake of transparency, and to act, kind of as an example, again, like I was saying earlier, walk our talk. I'll tell you exactly what we came up with for a structure for this show. So we're going to try to keep things to about an hour going forward, right? We've, as Dom alluded to, we've occasionally meandered for extended periods of time on Clubhouse and even in live streams. And we're trying to rein that in a little bit by adding some structure. So we're starting off with 5 minutes of just kind of intro at the top of the show, right? We're going to do our takes on whatever the topic is that we're talking about this week. So we're actually going to pick a topic in advance and talk about it for a couple of minutes and give our takes. Then we're going to start giving people the opportunity on Clubhouse and beyond to share their thoughts and ask their questions for about 20 minutes. Then around 10 o'clock, as we did today, we're going to do kind of a reset and share some gratitude with everybody who's here and for being a part of this community. And then we'll go around the room again, giving people a last chance to kind of chime in, or people that we didn't get to yet. For example, Dimple, we'll go to you next. Give you a chance to chime in on your thoughts on storytelling and structure and the importance of both. We'll do our show and tell, right? And then we'll wrap it up. So that's kind of how we're going to spend the hour every week with you guys. And I wanted to run through that. We broke it down by minutes for each kind of section of this show, so that we would have a clear structure to reference and be able to follow going forward. So every week when people come in here to join us at Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, you'll know exactly what to expect, right? And hopefully over time that'll build trust, just like it's built trust with so many of you who join us here on Clubhouse every week and have been doing so for a long time. So that's the goal. That's the idea behind it. That's what we're doing here. We appreciate all of you. And now, without further ado, Dimple, what are your thoughts on storytelling and structure? How do you use it to connect with your audience?
Yeah, thanks, Dominic. Storytelling is so important, whether you're giving a TEDx speech or you are doing your podcast show or even, trying to demonstrate or teach something in a YouTube video or even like short form content like reels. Like storytelling is one thing that actually captivates the audience and mesmerizes them and draws them in to pay attention. And when you're creating content, the whole point of creating content is to get someone's attention so that they are interested enough to listen to the entire episode or to watch the entire video or to watch the entire reel. So storytelling is really something that keeps people, actively engaged because they want to know, well, what happens next? It's like the cliffhanger. So they're going to be curious to be like, well, how does this story end or what happened? And when you tell a story, people are paying more active attention instead of just, oh, yeah, I'm kind of halfway listening, halfway not. So I think that's the big distinction when you have storytelling. As far as the format, I think I've tried many different formats when it comes to podcasting. But when you are not familiar with what the other person does, or you're not familiar with a specific topic you're going to talk about, it always helps to do your research and have an outline and have potential questions you want to ask. But if it's something that you're really well versed in, I don't really like to go by outlines and things like that. I literally just like to talk as if I'm talking to a friend. So I think it really depends on the scenario. Also, if you're a beginning podcaster where you're not as experienced yet, it makes sense to, have like a structure and an outline so that you can stay focused. But if you've been podcasting for a while, you may not need one. Those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Dimple, so just answer me this, because this is something that's bugging me. What do you think about somebody that comes on video and does 6 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes? Can you do that? Or is that like, am I in the wrong here that I'm turned off by this? Because I want to know what to expect. So like if I go on TikTok or Reels, it's going to be a minute, right? It's going to be a minute. It's going to be 15 seconds. I'm investing less than a minute at that time. I know it. So some people, they'll share video that's 6 minutes, 13 minutes. What do you think about that? Am I oversensitive about this, or what's your thoughts?
So I'm going to throw a question back at you. So are you saying you're sensitive about it? Why? Because to you it's too long or it's too lengthy? Like, what is your thought process?
Well, I'm going to go right with the structure here that I don't know. I clean my language up. I don't know what's going on. So same with like when I, like as a publisher of books, I want the strongest intro. I love a good intro. Make me cry, or I want to know exactly what's going on in this book. So I know you're going to take me through the 3 phases of life and touch on this, this, and this. And I'm going to give you these points that change your life on how to record yourself on voice, or how to fish, how to properly catch a bass. So now all of a sudden I listen and I jump into this. It's going 16 minutes. It's going 6 minutes. I don't know what's going on. And I wait and I wait and I wait. And I just, that's why I'm sensitive to it. I feel like my time is being because there's no, maybe it's meandering. I feel like I don't know where this is going. Are you getting me somewhere? You haven't laid it out, and now I'm
So,
invested. Yeah, I'm invested and I'm angry. Go on.
I gotcha. I think that's if you're feeling that way, that's because the creator of the video has not done a good job of actually giving you right away what are you going to learn from watching this whole video, like what's in it for them. And if they don't know what's in it for them, why should they watch? And then they're thinking, are you just like talking to talk, or is there going to be, are there going to be some value bombs in here? Are there going to be some takeaways that I can do stuff with? So I think it's about like them setting the stage from the beginning of, well, why you should stay till the end and what are they going to learn in this video. And when you do that, people are like, oh yeah, this video is for me or it's not for me. So then they don't have to spend 6 to 10 minutes watching something. They're like, oh, that's a waste of my time. But if they're like, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking to know about or learn today, then they can watch the whole thing and they will. So I think that, if you're a YouTuber and you're not setting up the stage with like a hook and you're not saying the right thing in the beginning, then why should someone watch something for even like 3 minutes? Because time's valuable. Even with reels, it's like the first 3 seconds you have in reels to capture someone's attention. So if you don't do that, people are not going to listen. They're going to say, hey, I don't have time for this. I'm going to keep scrolling. And that's because there's so much content out there and so much information. People have choices. They don't have to like waste their time watching a channel they don't like or listening to someone they don't enjoy. But like when I'm scrolling through content, the reason it captures my attention is it speaks to me directly. It speaks to a situation I'm going through in life. It speaks to a problem I'm trying to solve. It speaks to something I want to be educated on and learn more about. So if you are creating content, you have to think about who your audience is and you have to speak to them where it resonates with them. And if you're making that disconnect there, your content is not going to take off.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dimple, thanks for that. I think one of the things I would push back a little bit on is, when you start talking about like hooks and the first 3 seconds and stuff, I think there's a little bit of cart before the horse there going on, in that the hook doesn't really matter if people don't know what to expect, right? If people don't know what they're getting, because there is no format, right? So when I talk about format, I'm talking about literally like when you watch a television show, right? Like any of your favorite shows, right? And when I say television, I'm including streamers, right? Whatever your favorite show is, right? There is a format to that show, right? There is, like Dom was talking about with bikes and hikes, right? There's like a cold open or a pre-title tease that gives you a sense of what to expect in that episode before the title sequence, right? Then there's the title sequence. Then there's the first act, right? Where they do some character development and set the stage for the story, right? Then you get into act 2, where the story, builds towards the climax, which sometimes happens at the end of act 2, sometimes at the end of act 3, depending on what kind of, or in act 3, depending on what kind of structure they're doing. Then there's a climax to the story, right? And then there's a resolution to the story. And they all kind of follow a format around that basic structure. And so I think regardless of whether or not you're making, like we did with this hour-long show, Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, and breaking down a structure into different sections and segments, right? Whether you're doing 60-second videos or you're doing, 10-minute long pieces of content or whatever, you have to have a bit of a structure, and that structure has to be consistent across sort of every piece of content that you create for that specific sort of topic, right? And I think, Dom, what happens with you and what you're talking about is when people kind of jump around and they're like, oh, one day I'll make a 60-second video. The next day I'll make a 6-minute video. And then the day after that, it'll be 90 seconds. And then the next day it'll be 12 minutes. And you're like, I don't know what's happening. And of course you feel that way because there's no consistency, right? There is no consistent structure. And so of course you feel confused and you're not inclined to continue watching their content because you don't know what to expect. They haven't been clear about setting their expectations for you and then delivering on those expectations, right? And that's why structure is so important, is that you set expectations and then deliver on those expectations. And once you have an established structure, within that structure, you can start to do things like create hooks to get people to come back or stick around for the next segment, right? You can tease upcoming parts of the content, right? Things like that. Like, for example, coming up in a couple of minutes, Dom's going to do show and tell, right? So if you like Dom's show and tell, stick around. You can hear him talk about it here on Clubhouse, or you can also see it here on LinkedIn, right? So stick around. Coming up, we've got Dom's show and tell for the week. So just to give you an idea of like how structure helps you, like, and I know it's coming up because it's the thing that's next scheduled in the structure of the show that we're doing, right? So yeah, so that's I just wanted to push back on that. I think you have to kind of create that format first, right? Lay a foundation, and then you can build all kinds of different things on that foundation, right? But if you lay that foundation, people will know what shape it's going to be in, and that's kind of the overall important part of the structure from my perspective.
Hey, Tom, Jolanta asked a question I'm going to throw back to you. That, so let's say there's banter, like people might hear what you're saying and think, well, she says, what about some banter? Isn't that good? And people might hear what you're saying here and think, hey, Tom's being rigid. So does Tom have an explanation for that?
Absolutely. Structure. That's not even a word. Structure is not scripting, right? So structure is, give me, like, so for an example, we've all of us who went to high school, right? Or, got an assignment at some point, give me a paper, right? However many words, 1,000 words on Romeo and Juliet, examining the allegories of the relationship between the Capulets and the Montagues, right? Like, so, I mean, I don't know, I'm just making that up. But anyway, but like we've all been given an assignment, right? That creates a framework, and then everybody writes a different paper within that framework, right? Nobody's, unless they're plagiarizing each other, in which case they get in trouble, right? Because plagiarism is not good. But everybody's paper is different because you're given a framework within which to create the paper, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Is I'm talking about creating a structure within which to create the program. So it's not about strict adherence, right? You can say, let's do, let's do show and tell, right? Which is what we're about to do. I have no idea what Dom's going to pull out. It's not scripted. It's not overly structured. It's just that at about this time in the show, we're going to go to Dom's show and tell. And just like the rest of you, I have no idea what he's going to pull out. And that's okay. So it's okay to have some unknowns within the structure, right? The structure is the sort of framework. What you build inside that framework or on top of that foundation is going to look different every single time. And that's okay. That's actually a good thing, right? So without further ado, Dom, surprise us all with your show and tell, buddy. You're on mute.
Man, see, I was so excited. I thought I nailed it. I did not nail it. Okay, here's this week's show and tell. If you're on, you better be on. But see, here's the thing. When you're describing something, if people aren't watching, you got to describe it so good. So the first thing I'm going to describe is my sweet tan is already starting. So because this weekend, me and my wife stepped out of our comfort zone and did something we have never done before that we've been scared of. We went to Florida and we took a cruise. And now I'll tell you all the things that scare me about a cruise. I thought the ship was going to rock. I thought I was going to be claustrophobic. I thought strangers were going to sit by me all the time and want to talk to me about surprised. Full disclosure, I'm not great at talking to strangers. It's just something I typically wear a hat real low, and I struggle to like hang out. And now I can, and I will, and I can enjoy it and meet new people. But it's something that I don't always. It might worry me. So anyway, we took this cruise. We went to the Bahamas. We had a blast. I got this sweet tan. And what I found in the market, at the market, bartered for it, this sweet ashtray that says Bahamas on it. I didn't have an ashtray, as Tom might attest to, because when he came to my house and brought these cigars that were so strong, they made me puke. I never told that story to you guys, but it is true. His cigars were so strong that I spun around halfway through one. And Jimmy down there, if I didn't tell you, that's the truth. But now I have an ashtray. It looks homemade to me, and it says Bahamas. So I stepped out of my comfort zone, got a cool ashtray that then I can share even more fun. I can remember these good times with my wife. And here it is, ashtray. That's today's show and tell, Tom.
I love it. I love it. And I think you did tell that story. I think we publicly aired that that debate about the cigars that I brought to your house, and the fact that I gave you the mildest cigar that I had, and you insist that I didn't. But I think there was a bit of user error going on. I don't know. We'd had a couple of drinks at that point, and I feel like there might have been some user error. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, things happen. It's all good. But yeah, no, I think that's cool. And I appreciate, I appreciate the story behind that, and the fact that, it was about, getting out of your, comfort zone a little bit and pushing yourself to do new and different, things and try new things. I appreciate that. 'Cause I think that's something that's, almost inevitably a good thing to do. Right. I think almost without question, it's good to push yourself to do hard things, right? And hard things look different for everyone, right? Like my kind of hard things are different from your kind of hard things, are different from Jason or Julie or Dimple's hard things or Jim's hard things or anybody here's hard things, right? Everybody's hard things are different, but I think it's almost universally a good thing to push yourself to do hard things. So I appreciate that. I think that was a great share for us for show and tell this week. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right. So, well, I appreciate that. And I'll follow up with one more thing that I have to let you know. So we went to this one island, and I could see people jumping off these things out in the island. And I'm like, whoa, that is so cool. And then we ended up at a different beach, and there weren't things to jump off of. And I said to myself, I cannot live in a world where I don't find those things and jump off them. Now, they were out in the water for snorkelers, but I, with my broken rib, which is getting better, I swum out in that water and I jumped off of those things, and I was liberated. I was free. So that's that. Okay, Tom, you got another question here from Jason. So Jason says, I like these questions. So
are you talking about the one on LinkedIn?
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
I'm gonna address that in the wrap up.
Oh, you're going to address it?
I already saw it. I'm going to address it in the wrap up.
Okay. All right. So go.
I'm on it. I'm on it, buddy. I saw Jason's question, and yeah, I'm going to talk about that in the wrap up.
Okay. So that being said, Tom, Julie, did you have Julie, Jason, Dimple, a last thought on structure? Give me 30 seconds if you want. Dimple, Julie, I'll just flash in order here. Anybody a last thought on structure? And then we're going to Tom for a wrap up if he's gloriously ready for that. All right, Tom. So I'm giving these. Okay, Jason must want your question. Dimple must want your question. So, and your answer to Jason's question that was on LinkedIn. So back here, Jimmy, Stephanie, Samir, Brandon, Lois, Amanda, thank you for being here. Heather, nice to see you again. All right, Tom, you're going to answer this question. So go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dom. I appreciate it. And once again, just want to say to everybody, as we wrap up here today, thanks again for being here. A lot more people were watching on LinkedIn this week, which is amazing, fantastic. We're going to keep inviting folks. Please let your friends, your connections know about this. If you got any value out of it, please share it. If you didn't get any value out of it, please help us do better. Right? Give us comments, suggestions, topics you want to hear us talk about, or include, or get more information on, so that we can help you. That's the whole idea here, is to not be the smartest guys in the room, to get a bunch of brilliant people together, so we can help solve problems for each other. Right? So that's what we want to do. And we love having you guys here and appreciate you so much. The question that Jason asked on LinkedIn, and I appreciate you for posting the question there, Jason, and for jumping on LinkedIn and commenting there. Thank you for that. The question that Jason posed on LinkedIn was, isn't scripting a part of structure? And I saw this question a couple of minutes ago, right around when Dom was doing his show and tell. And I had this thought that popped into my head right away. And so I wanted to share it because I thought it would maybe help illustrate where I kind of see a dividing line there, and where there's some room for scripting and structure to coexist, but scripting to not necessarily be a limiting factor, right? So if you think of, the structure or the format of something to be sort of the architectural plans of it, right? So think of structure as the architect's plans, right? On the drafts table, those sort of blue and white plans, right, that we're all familiar with. If you Google architectural drawings, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I want you to think of as structure. The structure is that set of architectural plans, right, that tell you sort of what the house is going to look like, what materials you need to build the house or the building, right? How you should put it together, how it's engineered to work, right, to withstand the test of time, right? That's what architectural plans do. What they don't do is they don't tell you what color you have to paint the rooms in that house, right? That is entirely up to you. And that's the difference there, right? So when it comes to structure, think of structure as architectural plans, right? And then scripting can be how you decide to paint the rooms in the house, or how you decide to provide the interior finishings to that house, right? So as you're building your house, you start with the basic structure and then you move on to the interior finishings. And at the same time, you may in your head, right, or on paper, think to yourself, well, I'm definitely going to use this kind of tile in the kitchen, right? But then the day may come to actually buy the tile and get ready to put the tile down in the kitchen, and that tile might not be available anymore, right? Or it might now be out of your budget because the pricing has changed on it, right? Or somebody might have suggested that actually hardwood floors in a kitchen are a great idea, and you decide to go that route instead, right? So you have to be willing to adapt and change the script, especially in a format like a podcast or a format like this, so that it always kind of makes sense. But whether you put tile in the kitchen or hardwood in the kitchen, right, or linoleum or vinyl planking or whatever flooring you put in the kitchen, it's still a kitchen, right? So the structures, the architectural plans, right, and then the finishes are the sort of the scripting that you do. That's where you decide what it's going to look like on the inside. Okay. So just kind of try to think of it that way. So it can be a part of structure scripting, but it doesn't have to be a part of structure. You can just say this is going to be a kitchen, and then decide how it's going to look, what color to paint it, what flooring to use, what kind of cabinets you want, all of those kind of things in the moment, right? As you walk into the space for the first time, it doesn't have to be decided in advance. So that's kind of where I would draw the line and how I like to think about it. So I hope that helps anybody and everybody. Jason, I hope that helps you in your thinking about scripting and structure and how they work together, but they're not necessarily codependent, right? You don't have to have a script if you have a structure, right? Structure comes first, though. Structure is kind of the most important part, especially when it comes to storytelling. And I just saw Jason said absolutely. So thanks, Jason. I'm glad that helped. I appreciate you being here as always. Thanks again to everybody who was here with us today, whether you're on Clubhouse or LinkedIn or anywhere else on the internet watching us. We appreciate all of you always and forever. Thanks so much for being a part of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Thanks for sharing about your experiences in the Bahamas and your ashtray purchasing journey. Dom, we appreciate you. And just wanted to say thanks again. Hope everybody likes this new format that we're employing, the structure that we've applied to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. We'll keep it up so you guys know what to expect every week at 9:30 a.m. when you come visit us here. 8:30 or 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, I should say. Eastern Standard Time is when we're here. Thanks very much. We appreciate you guys. And until next Wednesday, I'm Tom for Dom, and this is Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. We'll see you guys then. Love you. Bye-bye.